Coming down with the heartache.
On this episode of Between Two Beers, we talk to Eric Murray. Eric has won 8 World Championships, 2 Olympic golds, he went 69 races undefeated in the Kiwi pair with Hamish Bond, won 2 Holberg Awards and was named a member of New Zealand Order of Merit across a 20-year career as one of New Zealand's finest rowers. This episode was an absolute blast and Eric was an incredible guest with high energy, charisma and unbelievable stories from 2 decades at the very top of high performance sport. We talked about fighting Manu Vatuvei in the 2012 Fight for Life, memories of competing in a TV show to find New Zealand's toughest man, the many memorable tales from epic nights out in Switzerland, including the time he wrestled a swan into a pub, the infamous meeting when Dick Tonks blew his lid at the Kiwi pair, and how having a son with autism has changed the man he is today. I know you'll enjoy this one. This episode was sponsored by no one, but it could be you. If you would like to sponsor an episode or become our official sponsor, get in touch. We'd love to be talking about you right now. Check out our website at betweentwobeers.com where you can find show notes, photos, YouTube clips and links to Spotify and Apple Podcasts for every episode. There are also links on our site to our Patreon page. A huge thanks to those who have already shown their support. Enjoy the app. Eric Murray, welcome to Between Two Beers.
G'day boys, how are we?
Very well, we are in Eric's house in Cambridge. He's invited us to record here. It's a beautiful place, Shay, across the road from Cambridge Football Club.
Yeah, I'm surprised how many times we would have driven past here on the way to Vogel Street, the home of Cambridge FC, and not realised that a double Olympic gold medalist calls this home.
I've been here for a year. Been here for a year now, actually. Yeah, this has been good. It's been bloody good. And I'll tell you what, they use the park. That football field is full all the time. The athletics park across here is full all the time. It's mate, Cambridge is a bloody great place to live, actually. It's really, really good.
Yeah. We were talking about how cool it is, this little situation we've created at Between Two Beers, where we've got an excuse to drop by a 2-time gold medal Olympian with a 6-pack of beers and have a chat. And we pulled up and we saw Eric through the window. He already had a beer in his hand, so he was on his way already.
Oh, mate, it's been a long day.
Really nice edges of the lawn, actually, if anyone's driving past. It's the place with the really good edges.
So I'll tell you what, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to get a 4-metre Christmas tree and I'm going to stake it in the front lawn and I'm going to buy solar lights from one of the probably Mitre 10 and I'm going to decorate it and it's going to be an outdoor bloody Christmas area.
There you go.
Oh, well, my boy loves Christmas and I love Christmas. Who doesn't love Christmas? And shit, this year's been a roughie, so everyone can drive past and go, oh, look, he's in the spirit, even though it's November, but wait.
Amazing. This is the first time Shay and I have met Eric, but Shay, you might have crossed paths at the Olympics once?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was at London 2012. I was actually quite hungover in the Olympic Village the day you won gold.
Oh, okay.
So we were on our way back with the men's football team from Newcastle, and were there. Watched you win on the TV.
Nice.
But couldn't you guys weren't?
We didn't stay there. No, we were out at towards Windsor in one of the universities. Crikey, I can't remember the name of it. And so we were staying there. And then once that all finished, then we moved back into the village. So there were still 2 more days of finals, I think.
Yeah.
And so subsequently we had some friends that lived out in Cirencester. They played polo. And so we went out there, stayed there for 2 or 3 days. And then my ex now and my boy at the time, they came out, watched the Olympics, and then we went and stayed there, and then they flew home, and then I went back into the village. Yeah. And so we had a big welcoming when we went back to the village, and pretty special.
And speaking of exes, I've got another loose connection with you. And that is through Kylie Daniel, who was at ANZ.
Yeah,
you were an ANZ ambassador for years, so she used to come home and talk about these amazing athletes.
Kylie. She's great.
Yeah, so did I.
There it is, boys. There it
Likes
is.
to talk about Kylie at least once an episode.
Yeah, we're getting a roll on. She never listens, so it's okay.
Anyway,
I'll send you the link, eh?
let's get cracking now. You have got the most jam-packed CV of any guest we've had. We've had world champions before. You're our first Olympic gold medalist. Shout out Emma Twigg.
She'll get it.
Yeah, she will.
She'll get it.
We're gonna start back in 2012. Fight for life. Now, when we were thinking about the place we're going to start, we could go rowing. But what about someone gives you a call? And I'd love the full story of how this came about. But it seems like fighting Manu Vatuvei is got to be the most terrifying proposition someone can put to you. But you got it put to you and you said yes. How did that happen?
There's a little bit of backstory, but I'll try and find the best point to start at. Okay, Hamish and I, we were doing a few speeches and corporate stuff. We're driving back from this one in Matakana, and I get this phone call, and we're on speakerphone, and it was a guy who was sort of organising it all. And he's like, yeah, blah, 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 yeah, okay, no, we've got it all sorted, yep, we need to do a press conference next week. I need you to come up to Boxing Alley, blah, 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 and we'll do a bit of a thing with you and Manu. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Got off the phone, and Hamish looks at me and goes, no, you're not. And he goes, you're not. And I went, what do you mean? He goes, you're not fucking fighting Manu, are you? And I went, yeah. He goes, oh, you're a fucking idiot. And so, yeah, well, basically, years ago, I did a TV show, and I'm really trying to get it back, but with Phil Keoghan, it was called New Zealand's Toughest Man.
Oh, we were going
Okay, we're going there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so me and Horse, Mark Bourneville, got in the ring and did it. And of course, he always did fight for life, and he's like, I'm going to get you in, going to get you in, going to get you in. So for literally like 8 years, every year he rang me up and said, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? And I said, I can't. I'm right. And I was like, obviously I didn't want to get injured at the time or get knocked out. And so he was still on my case, and then bang, London comes up, and he rang me up and he goes, mate, I'm going to get you in. And I said, yeah, go on then, just see who they want. And then of course, next minute, Dean Lonergan, everyone's on this conference call to me, and they go, look, would you fight Manu? And I was like, hell no. Fuck no way.
Crazy.
And they go, look, we'll make your packet a little bit better for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so in the end, I actually thought about it, and I thought, well, what's the worst can happen? You get knocked out. But at the time I said to my wife, and I said, they want me to fight Manu Vatuvei. And she goes, who is he? And I said, it's this league player. Okay, nothing of it. A couple of days later, she goes, I told someone this Manu Vatuvei, and they went, bullshit. And I was like, so subsequently she was like, then she Googled him and went, oh, bloody hell, look at him. And big gold tooth and everything. And so when I turned up to train in Hamilton with the guy Rick Ellis, who was coaching David Nika at the time, and I turned up and I said, look, need some boxing training. I had like 11 weeks. And he goes, what are you trying to do? And I said, I want to win. Like I literally wanted to win.
Did he know who you were fighting?
Yeah, so he knew I was fighting. And he goes, I'm winning. And he goes, good. And he goes, because if you'd come in here and told me you just wanted to fight and, do the thing, I would have told you to piss off. And I was like, no. I said, look, I want to get the fundamentals. I said, I'm pretty fit. And I was pretty fit.
Because you were 30 at the time, right?
Yeah.
You were in your physical
yep.
prime.
And so he goes, look, so he did a few ringing around. He goes, okay, it's professional fighting rules, which are a 10-9 point system. So it's whoever's most active, whoever lands the most punches, bang, bang. So the whole idea in that sense is to basically throw as many punches, and that's why like Floyd Mayweather won. Because he just didn't get clean shots on him, bang, bang, get 3 or 4 good shots in the ring. This other guy could be throwing like 100 things, doesn't land one, and then Mayweather gets 10, the other guy gets 9. So of course that was the whole fight thing. So in the actual fight, first round, bang, I just come out, jab, 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 move. And of course they were like far out. They thought I was going to stand there and trade punches. No way. Not that stupid. And that was our whole plan. So the next minute, bang, I win the first round. And of course you can see them in the other thing going, now, Jesus, you got to go after him. So the second round, it was pretty even. They gave it to him because he got a couple of good punches in. And then the third round was basically just like he was off his feet. I was basically off my feet as well, just running around. And he landed a massive one in my ribs. But of course, he was out of steam. I was just still moving around, just jabbing, just punching a few. So in the end, it was an amazing fight. Like, okay, put our training back about 6 weeks because I had bruised cartilage. But that was the whole idea. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. But of course, there's no way I was going to go into it like the rugby boys do and see who can knock each other out.
Yeah.
I was literally like, okay, how does boxing work? And it's like, throw the most punches, be the most active, move around. And that was just the philosophy going into it. So when I had added all that into the equation to make the decision of if I was going to do it or not, I was like, yeah, I can do this. And that's basically how we did it. Yeah. So in the end, I was always in a win-win situation because if I got knocked out, everyone would go, Manu, you big bloody bully, because he's a rower. If I won, everyone would go, how did you get beaten by that little white guy?
I don't think anyone's saying little. No one's saying little white.
But basically, but you put the two of us together and we're both big boys, we were both like 100, 105 kgs at the time. So that was basically it. So in the end, we actually had really good media coverage. It was great for the charity to be able to do it because, and we got great coverage on TV, had a few mates at the table and stuff and they loved it and yeah, it was good fun.
Other than the Bourneville fight, boxing and the toughest man stuff, I mean, you are a big unit. Did you get into many sort of scraps growing up in your childhood?
Mate. Yeah, shit, yeah. I tell you what, and I've told a lot of people, I reckon if I didn't stay in sport, I'd have been in trouble. 100%. Just I was a smart ass, try to be the class clown, that type of person. And it was funny at the time, but of course, and the other thing too is we lived in Bombay and I went to Puka High School. So it wasn't until I sort of got my license and get a bit independent that I was in town. But if I'd been in town the whole time, man, I would have just been like, see, I'm going to go with the mates after school and just, I'd hate to know. Just because I was that type of person, just sort of like cause a little bit, just push people a little bit too far, push the teachers just a little bit far. And that was sort of my persona when I was young. So, man, I reckon I could have been real bad. And of course it did, and man, number of fights you go to parties and of like rival schools and you hit to Papakura or something like that and you just find a party or someone's heard something next minute with a couple of mates and all they were trying to do was go there for a fight.
Yeah,
those Rose Hill College kids.
Yeah, everything. And so that's basically what we used to do, like on the weekends, just go try for a fight. And it's also like, got into a few myself just because I followed and did that.
And because you were big?
Yeah, we were whopper at school.
Bit. Yeah, you do get that target as well, but it was just like no real fights at school, but it was just, it's really stupid looking back on the day. Like, now you're a bit of an adult, you go, well, try not to be as much of an adult as you have to, but you look back on it and you go, man, you're an idiot. But of course, that's just what you do growing up, and so, yes, I'm just sort of lucky that the way that I pursued my life a little bit after that, and I moved away, went down to Christchurch, down to Lincoln University in bits and pieces. Because I think if I'd stayed up and just kept in the same groups, like, man, I don't know. You really don't know where that pathway could have led you. And that's the whole thing with life. We've all realised that, shit, you can do so many different pathways in life and you just got to accept the way you go. And, geez, I'm sitting here with you two boys, buddy, having a yarn, and it could be a completely different story,
That all makes sense. I feel like if you're accepting a fight against Big Manu, you need to have had a bit of a scrappy upbringing. You need to have had
but funny enough, when I went and saw Rick, he basically said, forget about what you know about fighting in the street. He said, do not think about fighting in the street, because he goes, nothing to do with it. You're not standing there trying to knock someone out. You're trying to move and punch, move, punch, move, and punch. He goes, you're trying to win on points. You're not trying to knock someone out.
Sweet science, all that.
And he goes, because you need to really connect hard with somebody, because you're wearing headgear and bits and pieces. So you've actually got to get hit pretty hard to get KO'd. You get rattled and you can probably take a knee or bits and pieces. But you have to get hit really hard in that sort of corporate fighting to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. So he was like, you're fighting this as you were going to be doing if you were in a competition, and that's the way I'm going to teach you. And that's basically what I did. So he was like, forget about the haymakers, forget about this, I'm going to teach you the fundamentals. And the one thing I found was when I went there, and I was actually did a little bit of training with David, he was like going to the junior worlds at the time. I'd do a whole training and then he'd jump in with David's, and then he'd be finished, I'd be like, let's do more, let's do more. And then Rick would be like, man, no, hang on. I'm like, dude, like this is this is only like 45 minutes. I'm used to like a couple of hours. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So we'd keep going and going and going. So when they had the corporate stuff on, they'd be doing, because the corporate, they do like 2-3 minute rounds. So I'd do like sparring. I'd do one guy, the next guy, then back in with that. So I'd do like 6 rounds and bits and pieces. Even though I was only going to do 3, I was like, we need to do double or more just so I can like feel the hurt. And in full respect to boxers. Yeah. Oh man, it's a hard ass sport. Yeah. Like your arms just fall off your body. You're just moving around. You're like, it's tough, eh? It is really, really tough. And so it was a great experience. It was a really good break from the rowing just to be able to do that at the time. Yeah.
My brother did a corporate boxing fight, and I remember speaking to him afterwards. He was like, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. But 2 things strike me. One is when you actually get into the ring, what's the feeling there? Because a lot of people go like, it becomes really, really real.
Oh mate, this is great. Oh, this is so good. I've only ever felt like some really big anxiety moments in my life because you get used to different things, and I tell athletes and I tell different people, you're never going to get rid of the nerves. Deal with it. From your first race till the moment of your last race, the nerves are always going to be there. We're always going to be the same, basically thinking, don't fuck it up. Because that's really what you're thinking. Jesus, don't fuck it up. Because if I don't fuck it up, I'll probably do well. And then, of course, standing in the ring. So, like, that was probably worse than the Olympic final. Because, like, you walk into the ring, like, up until that moment, it's about to happen. There's things going to happen. There's things going to happen. It's like building. Next minute, you're in the ring. He's on that side. You're on this side. Everyone gets out and you go, oh, fuck, it's happening. Like, it's right now. And, like, you hear the bell. But, of course, I think maybe because I was used to it, you hear that bell and action takes over. So it's like, bang, we're in. Whereas that moment, and it was probably 10 seconds. And I did it the other day. I was down in Queenstown. I did a bungee jump. Did my part for local tourism. And that moment where you stand on the edge, you're like, oh, heck, here we are again. So I really only a few times have I felt that real anxiety, like something good or bad is about to happen. And that's really what anxiety is about. Something good or something bad is about to happen. Like you're about to jump off and you're like, I know this is like 99.9% good, but you're about to jump off a bridge with a bungee on, or you're about to fight somebody that if you do it wrong, bang, you could be knocked out or you could be hurt, or whatever. So, of course, that was the moment. And, that moment of just ready to go is like, holy shit. And, whereas like Olympic final anxiety is different because you've done your warm-up, you're sitting there, you're on countdown, you know where it goes. And then it's not like they just blow the buzzer. There's like a process that builds you down from that. So you sit there and you go, okay, process, ready to go. Okay, yeah, and you'll say to Bondi, right, we can get out, and you're still having your talk. And next minute they start calling everybody's names from the course. So they'll go like Australia, Canada, Great Britain. And so the next minute you set up, right, everything's ready to go. And then you're waiting for that thing. So you're basically already into it. So the anxiety is only really there for a moment, flashing in and out while you're getting ready, but you've got enough to like move around and check your riggers and make sure your feet are tight, splash a bit of water and stuff like that. So you don't really get this massive anxiety feeling, even in an Olympic final, because it's exactly what you've done before. It's the same feeling you get from being and racing your mates here on Karapiro. And so but that boxing one and like the bungee jump, completely different.
I just want to list one last thing before I leave the boxing. What was your walk-in song? And did you actually hear it when you walked in?
Oh, yeah. It was Long Road to Ruin by Foo Fighters.
Good.
Yeah. I was just like, what? Yeah.
Have you got a walk-in? If you ever did a fight, Steve, have you got a walk-in? I think everyone's got a walk-in song.
Probably The Gambler. Like it's something a bit different, nice and slow.
Interesting.
Just change the vibe a bit.
His one might be Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It.
Could be. Could be. Yeah. Cult of Personality. Living Colour for me.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, wow.
Let's take you back before the boxing, and you've already mentioned it. You want to bring this show back. I sort of stumbled. Yeah. I'd never even seen or heard of it. Shay sort of flicked me a link. New Zealand's Toughest Man.
No Opportunity Wasted was the actual name of the show.
And there was you and about 6 other sort of battlers who were competing to be named the toughest man in New Zealand.
Yep.
How did this all come about?
I literally just got a message from somebody And they said, oh, no, this TV show, and they want like an athlete, they wanted a rower, would you be keen? And basically I was like the only one around, because there were a few like New Zealand guys, because I was in this sort of development age, and they said, oh, nah, none of them can do it, then like they're not here or whatever they are. And like it was literally like a Wednesday, and they said we're going to start filming like Thursday, and I was like, yeah, okay, bang, and it was like I'm in. And so maybe it was like a last minute call up.
So you're like early 20s at this point?
24.
Yeah, 24.
24.
We're 3 days apart in age, by the way.
Oh, mate, there we
You're
go.
3 days older than me.
Oh, you May the 3rd. May the 9th.
Other way, yeah, May the 9th.
There you go.
And are you taking it serious? 24-year-old on this TV show,
Oh,
Toughest Man in New Zealand. Are you wanting to win it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because like the reason you're like in that sort of environment is competition. And it was like I had a really good relationship with Phil Keoghan, and I asked him a couple of times if I could do, like with a few people, do the Amazing Race, and every time he's like, nah, because you'll win it, because he goes, and there won't be any drama because you're just so competitive, but you reason as well, you know. So if things aren't going wrong, you're okay, bugger, I screwed it up, and then you like move on. Whereas he goes, we don't want that, we want drama, you know, and stuff from shit. Whereas now they've actually got one in America called Tough as Nails.
Okay.
And it's men and women, and you do a whole different series of stuff. And I've actually been trying to, like, I got hold of him. I said, mate, you want to bring it to New Zealand? He goes, well, we're going to do a few in America before we like look at franchising it and stuff. But of course, big names will get into it. But I'd really love to present it, eh?
Oh, right.
I'd be like, mate, I'm in. So I still keep in touch with him a bit. Like every now and again, we've had a few emails because I've done a couple of bits of like filming and stuff, because he was working with like Tourism New Zealand on some things and bits and pieces. But I reckon a show like that would go really well again. And especially at the moment, like after doing like Treasure Island and bits and pieces, it is really finding a station that's got the money to put it in, you know, the sponsors that want to get behind it to be it, because it's not a cheap process to be able to film one of those shows. Like it costs a lot of money.
Right.
But especially now, like if we could do it, you could do it quite easily. And even trying to, after doing Treasure Island, I really wanted to get Clash of the Codes back.
I was just about to bring that up.
Man, and of
I
course,
love that show.
And that was the thing. And I asked a few questions with the different people, and you'd probably have to rename it because I think that's like trademarked in bits and pieces. But if you wanted all the good people, and it was sort of maybe you could do it like start planning it now, because you need them after the Olympics where you get the big names. But you've got to be able to, in a situation like that, you've got to be able to film it quickly. You know, 4 days, 3 things a day, and trying to, like, what a logistical nightmare. You know, like, even with like Treasure Island, you know, you film for like 13 days or whatever it was. But of course, you know, but then it goes over like, geez, what did we go over? Like 10 weeks or 12 weeks on the TV. So that's what you've got to be able to do. Otherwise, you're just filming for like 3 weeks on TV and it's not worth it. But I still think that there could possibly be a big enough audience to actually might just reminisce and go, hey, shit, that'll be fun. Let's watch that again. And I don't think I would be part of it. Don't know if I'm that fit enough at the moment, but I definitely help present it or something.
Yeah. Phil Keoghan's accent, is it as it is on camera when you talk to him?
Oh, he's definitely got an American twang now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's been there for, man, geez, because he did he did What Now?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah.
Well, we would have watched it because we were the same age.
I know. Bloody back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
So you win this show. Well, toughest. Second?
Yeah, Mark.
I thought, sorry, I've been fed bad info.
I didn't finish the end.
Hang on, I'll say yes, I did.
I got to Bethel's Beach. That was only the first event, I think. I watched up till Bethel's Beach, and then I kind of zoned out.
Well, see, I won a couple.
Yeah.
But then I was good enough to not get knocked out in a couple.
I felt for the bodybuilder. He was struggling.
Yeah, but see, he struggled on like the... he struggled on that. He got booted out in that. And then, of course, there was another guy, this police officer guy. And, of course, in the league, we had to do this run-up in the league. And, of course, I was like, man, go low, hit the ground, bang, because it was who could get the furthest. And these 3 league guys, he just got to the front, and they just picked them up, bang, back across the try line. Then he did it again, and again, and again. I'm like, dude, go low, because you had 6 tackles to see who could go the furthest.
Yeah.
And if you got to the other end, and there were 4 leagueies, so, of course, you were sitting there going, how am I going to get past these guys? But you hit the deck, and then you get up, and then you'd run, and of course the ref would be like, he's not back, you go, and then they tackle you. So I got about 30 or 40 metres up. But this poor guy just got hammered, you know. So of course I wasn't the best, but I was like good enough to not get kicked out. And that's what, like in some of those shows, just don't worry if you're not winning all the time. Just when it's not your like forte, just don't get kicked off.
Right.
The other part that was really interesting I found was when they came to your workplace. That was some good. Was that good acting? Or was
I
that
actually
legit?
didn't know. No, I actually didn't know they were coming.
Yeah.
And because I knew about it, and they said, "Oh, look, they're going to come in and like pick you up from wherever you are, and like basically take you off." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Oh, well, I'll be able to go home." They're, yeah, I know you can do that, but you know they'll come and do it. And then the next minute, literally, because at the time I was like, I was working at a rainbow factory here in Cambridge. They just rolled on up. I was like, "Oh shit!" What? And so I knew it was happening, sort of because I got the phone call, but I didn't know it was like. Right now, and Phil's like, "You're ready to go," and I'm like, "Hey, okay, let's go."
Good.
And so it was like, I didn't realise it was like we're going right now, and then basically they're like, "Okay, go get your stuff. We'll see you in Auckland tonight for a debrief." And I was like, "Oh, okay," and that was it. Yeah.
And the premise of the show was 72 hours. Was it actually?
Yeah, 3 days we filmed it.
Wow.
I think they should bring it back. I'm just hearing about some of those stunts or whatever you want to
But
call
you
them.
could do it so much better now. Like, well, yeah, yes and no. It just takes planning. You know, and it just, you know, months of planning and like just health and safety and, you know, the number of hoops you'd have to jump through to do different pieces and bits and pieces. But you could do a whole lot of it. It's quite easy.
Did you know the other characters that were on the show? Or when you got to Auckland, you were sort of sizing everyone up?
Well, you just sort of sit like, yeah, I can say it on camera. But basically you meet and they're like, "Oh, yeah, bang, beers." and then they're like, "Yeah, okay, we're doing this tomorrow. We've got these 3 tomorrow." And by the end, and like everyone stayed around. So it wasn't like everyone was going to leave. And then they so like, okay, they're like, "Oh, 2 of you are going to go tomorrow, 2 are going to go the next day, and then we'll be down to the last thing or whatever." And so they're like, "But we'll, you know, keep around unless you don't want to go." And a couple of them were from out of town and bits and pieces. So it was then like next night, bang, beers again, beers and dinner, and then yeah, basically it was like the final day, ready to go, and 2 people left, and that was it.
And big beers.
Yeah. And so then it was it, and then away we go. So, oh mate, there's so many cool shows you could actually produce, but as I say, it's just money and time and health and safety. Because some of it now you look back on it, like, oh, because we did the wood chopping.
Yeah.
And of course, man, I don't think you'd be allowed to do that anymore.
Well, speaking of health and safety, we had Matt Heath on our last episode with Back of the Y. I don't know if you ever watched that, but there's no chance you could do what they did on Back of the Y Masterpiece Television these days.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Flipping cars and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll move on to, it's going to continue a little bit of the social theme. I've heard from a few sources tell us that you found quite an interesting international loophole, being that the New Zealand 20 cent or 50 cent coin.
Was it the old 50?
Yeah.
With a perfect replica for the 5 franc coin in the Swiss vending machine.
This is literally fraud we're talking about.
Oh god! You said everything was on the table. So.
Everything is on. No, we're fine. No, we're good. Yeah. No, funnily enough, before Athens Olympics, we had these Aussies come over and train here because their coach was really good friends with our coach. He was an old New Zealand coach. And they came over and we did a series of races against us here in Karapiro for a weekend. And as they were leaving, like the boys were like, "Oh yeah, we've got to go to the shop and get heaps of 50 cent coins." I was like, "What for?" And they said, "Oh, your 50 cent coins work in the vending machines in Switzerland." And I went, "What?" And they said, "Because in Switzerland, the 5 franc coin, it's a 5 franc coin. It's not a note. It's a coin." And so I was like, "Oh," and they said, "Yeah, your 50s are exactly the same." And so, of course, the next year, I go to Switzerland and I had a couple in my bag from just spare change in my wallet. Lo and behold, bang, vending machine, 1 Swiss franc for a drink, bang, 4 Swiss francs for change. Holy shit, here we go. And so of course, the next year, I took 50 coins over, and I just made my way down the street buying the cheapest train ticket you could or bus ticket you could find, which was 70 Swiss franc cents. Bang, out pops the change, out pops the change, out pops the change. Any vending machine, 50 cent, bang, out pops the change. Fuck. And I carried around like an Oakley's we had at the time in the case, and I had 2 of them filled with just spare change. Oh, so then of course we turned up at the pub, Mr Pickwick's, and of course it's sort of an expat pub, and he basically I just dumped it out on there, and the guy goes, oh, you're a Kiwi, eh? Oh, yeah. And he absolutely knew. He goes, oh, we know. And of course, and so I said, and he goes, man, you're going to have to make us count it. I was like, no, we'll count it and we'll just give you, we gave him a tip and stuff like that. I think it's like 150 Swiss francs or something, eh?
That's good.
And so basically that paid for like a night out on the town because Switzerland's not cheap. So yeah, that's...
Did word get around? Did
a few people did it, but then of course, what year did we, like 2-8? I think we lost the coins. So there's only really a couple of years while I was in the team that we had the big ones, and then since then, like, all gone. So it was young, dumb, stupid, because man, if you like to look back on it, you get caught, man, bang, you're out. Yeah. You're not allowed back. Yeah. Like literally, because it's fraud, and like it's not like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry,
I didn't know,
give you a slap on the wrist, like I'd literally not be allowed back in Switzerland. So of course it was bloody risky. And this is what you talk about is, man, in your younger years, you do some shit and you're like, oh my God, like it was fun and everyone thought it was funny at the time and you can laugh about it now. And you actually look back on it, you're like, oh, hell, here we go. Like this is reasonably deep, eh?
We mentioned Mr Pickwick's, and it's a name of a pub that kept coming up in sources we've talked to about.
If you've got the story that I'm thinking about.
Let's try and make something up now. No, I've heard, ask him about nights out at Mr Pickwick's. I don't have the detail, but if you've got a good one.
Oh, it's just, so what happens is when you go to I'm sure it's the same for a lot of different sports. If you do like a series, you do the series and then you've got an X amount of time between then and like your big competition. So there's 3 World Cups a year. We normally don't go to the first one, but there's sort of it's like a 5-week break and then a 4-week break between the 3. So you do the first one, second one, third one, and we always go and do the second one, third one. And always, apart from like 2 years that I've ever been rowing, because it's a limit qualifying year, normally they do the second one, a limit qualifying at Lucerne, because it's the best and fairest lake in the world. That's where the 3rd World Cup is. So of course, everyone's been training their ass off. Then you've got like 7 weeks until it's the world champ. So it's like, let's go have some beers. Let's have a bit of a blowout. And it always has been a bit of a blowout. And of course, in Switzerland, it's like, where can you go to, everyone sort of knows everyone, and it's actually a pub. So it's actual pub. Whereas everything else is normally like a bar or a cafe or a pizzeria, type of restaurant type of thing. This is a pub. And so the Americans go, we go, the British go. So all of a sudden, basically, not all of the team, just about, most of it, even the Aussies. So you flood the street out. Well, it's right by Lake Lucerne, and there's a bit of a canal that runs out, the old Lucerne Bridge and bits and pieces, and it's right there. So you got 100+ people. The Dutch come, the Dutch supporters are there. It's a big night, and then you're off to a nightclub. You're not back till 2 or 3 in the morning. No, hardcore, full on, and so it's awesome. And of course, everyone gets, has a few beers, and because we're normally having a couple of days off, because that's the break, and then you're into the final run into World Champs. So there's always at least 3 days off, and then we're back into it. So it's always been an amazing, just get on the Terps, blow out, and Hamish being a bit of a stickler himself. The number of times he's had a bloody good night there as well, it just shows that people just want to let their hair down, whether it's been a good or a bad build up to the World Cups, or you went well or you didn't go well. Then it's like, right, I know where I've got to focus going forward. Where I think for some people is if they have a really bad showing, then they're all stressed and they're all tense. Then they stay stressed and tense all the way through, and it never comes right. Whereas if you go, I'm here, and I've had to pull a few people and say, look, and they're like, no, I'm not going out. I'm like, look, come here. This is an experience. Yes, you're going to have a few beers. You don't have to get drunk, whatever it is, but just let your hair down, because at the same time as you're wanting to be serious and you want to win, you want to get medals and you want to achieve your goals, you still got to have fun while you're doing it. So you're trying to rein people in like that at the same time. So one of the stories, I got pictures of it. There's a guy in Canada, a guy by the name of Adam Creek. They won the gold in the 8 in Beijing, and he was blonde hair, had a mo exactly like mine, everything. And everyone used to go, "Oh, you're brothers." So we were really good mates. And we were there on the booze. A few too many. Next minute I said to him, bro, imagine if we went and caught one of those swans and brought it back into the party. So here we are, running down, went into the lake, round these boats, jumped in the water, like ripped all our shirts off, still had our jeans on. Bang, we caught a swan. And we took it back into the...
I'm so interested.
Do you know how heavy a swan is?
Absolutely no idea.
They've probably got like 15 plus kgs on us. And they're trying to bite you, And so we're walking down, and so we caught it. And like,
as a team? Like you're working together?
So we worked it. We worked it into
one's got
this
a
thing.
herd one.
And we grabbed it, and it's flapping around. You got its feet. And so we pulled it up, and we got it back in. And so, we're giving it a pat. Next minute, we're walking into the pub, like literally into the pub, and everyone's just like, "Holy fuck!" And of course, the Americans are just like they're just off their feet with hysterical laughter because they've never seen anything like it, and people are just like, "Oh man, this is funny as hell." And so we're walking up behind people, and imagine a swan, like you can use your arm to, and it's biting with its little mouth. So we're basically walking up behind people, so its face goes beside their ear. Next minute they go, "Ah!" and they're like screaming, and they're like, "What are you doing?" So until this British lady comes out of the pub that was managing it, she goes, "You need to put that away. You can throw it back in the lake." She literally said it like that, and we started pissing ourselves. And she goes, "No, put it back in the lake, or else I'm going to call the police." And so we're like, "Oh, okay, sorry." So then we took it back, and she followed us, and we put it back, and we gave it a pat, and it was fine. It was like it didn't try and bite us when we had it. But yeah, shit, it was one of the funniest bloody nights. And I've got, it's right at the cusp because. I don't know about you boys, but I'm so glad we didn't have mobile phones.
Oh, I've been talking about this for a long time.
I don't know how many. And so, someone had a camera. We're talking, this was 2008. So it was right on the cusp, like it was digital camera era. So someone had to have the camera with them at the party to take the photos. So of course, someone took the photos. There was no mobile phone, just whoosh, bang, bang, click, 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 take a video of it. It was just photos. So of course, there's a couple of photos of it, but there's no video. And so it's never, like I think I've posted it on Instagram once maybe or Facebook, just as fun or whatever, but never to that extent. So
I'm really interested in the thought process to being like, yeah, let's go and get a swan. Like it had been a topical conversation at the
what
pub
have
before.
You done when you've had too many beers?
Yeah, I've done a lot of things. Yeah.
Exactly.
I haven't done too much animal stuff. I just haven't.
Neither have I actually.
Not too many animal-themed pranks, but I've done some stuff.
I gotta say, we've had, and I look back, and I said it to a few people. Like I look back, some of my best years in the team were when we were having good times. I don't know if you've got it on your list there, but 2007, when we won the World Champs in the 4, we turned up to a place in Lengries, and it's a place in Germany, south of Munich, about an hour and a half south of Munich, so what happened was in 1972 when we won the Munich 8. They all went and trained there. So they just brought the team in like brothers, just like your family, and so of course the town put on a big party, everyone knew everyone, it was just an amazing time. So when we went back there to the same town to train, same thing. Wow, this is awesome. Kiwis are back. Basically like a town party, street parade.
Wow.
Like I kid you not, it was awesome. And, it'd probably be like if, say, Cambridge hosted, say, the Argentine rugby team or something. You'd be like, man, come here, or the French, because there's sort of a connection.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, this is awesome. And everyone comes out and does it, blah, blah, and you have a bit of a function. But, of course, the beer festival was on at the same time. So you can see where the story's leading. Building up to World Champs, beer festival's on where you're training. You're welcome to go whenever you want. You don't pay a cent and you drink as much as you want.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so... a couple of men, that guy James from our 4, man, the number of times, and of course there was a men's 8 training at the same time trying to qualify and bits and pieces. So we were there 2 or 3 nights a week, just enjoying the town. But you're sitting there, steins, and of course you get to about 3/4 of the way through the stein. They're like, no, it's too warm now, bang, new one. And you're like, oh, hang on, another stein. Then now you're 3 steins deep and you're like, oh, there we go. So for sort of 2.5 weeks of while we were training, shit, we went hard. We drank a lot of beer. And some mornings we'd turn up to training and we were hammered. But it was good fun. It was really good. It didn't affect our training. And that's the one thing that I always look back on is that it there was never any point in time where, like Carl, he never really went out and drunk. Bondi a little bit, not much, but me and James were just like, hey, here we go, we're going hard. And of course it was great, it was really fun, but it never affected the training. And then of course, then it finished, and then we finished off our training, went to Munich, won the world champ. You know, so like I look back on it and I tell people the story, I'm like, man, you got no idea the number of times I was drinking before the world champs, but it never affected me. You know, like there's a couple of times where I thought it was going to, but you just got to be like, no, I'm not going to let it happen. And it's not like you're doing it all the time. It was just because it was a fun experience, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, hindsight, was it a great idea? Probably not the best, but as long as it doesn't affect you, you know, that's where you got to ask the questions. You know, you go, and a lot of people are like, oh, you know, athletes, you don't, you know, shouldn't drink and stuff beforehand. I'm like, well, why not? Because if it's what you do, okay, don't go get drunk. Which we didn't really get drunk, we just had a lot. You know, we weren't like stupidly like off our face.
Yeah.
We still had enough so we could walk home, have a good night's sleep. Because the Beer Festival, it's not like it starts at 10 and finishes at 1. It starts at 5 in the afternoon and finishes at 10.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, you know. So it was sort of a slightly different mentality of what people were expecting, where you're going out and just like till all hours in the morning. Because we're in this bloody little farm town, you know. And so that was the cool part about it. But yeah, like Lucerne most years, and then this year when we get and they were all pretty successful. So like I never look back on it and go, hey, you know, maybe if we didn't go there and like have a bit of a blowout, you know, we might have won, because we still won everything. So I was like, you know, it is what it is.
So one of the stories I picked up on a similar theme, the details a little vague, but hopefully you can fill in, suggested that maybe you turned up a little bit hungover one morning and as punishment were made to row an 8 by yourself.
Oh, that was Canada. That was our very first year, 2001. No, it wasn't Mahe. It was Mahe's mate, this guy Pete. And so we're fully young guys, you know, 20-year-olds. I think Pete was like 22, 23. We may have been out with other people. Let's just put it that way, you know. And we didn't go back to our dorms like we should have. Okay. And so, of course, then we get in the morning and they couldn't find us because we were like already at the training centre ready to train, and we'd already
your civvies.
No, yeah. We had sent messages to people going, can you, like in our roommates going, can you get a row suit for me? So, of course, when we turned up, and so we had to row this 8, me and Pete, like 2K all the way down the course, outside arm only, so it was just real slow. And they're like, this is punishment for you not going out. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, it was great. You know, like, we're development guys overseas, like having a blast, and you're trying to punish us, and we don't care, you know. And then, of course, we were still training, ready to go to Canada Cup, and then we win that and bits and pieces. So, you know, at the same time, yes, you've got to try and toe the line and have rules, but it was just bloody funny at the same time.
Amazing. I feel like we're 40 minutes in and we've got such a good picture of the character of the off field, out of boat experience. But I do want to paint a picture of of the good stuff. 8 world championships. That is the good stuff. I mean, the medals in that. The professional, high professional.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Okay, so 8 world championships, 2 Olympic gold medals, 69 races undefeated, 2 Halberg Awards, member of New Zealand Water. You've done it all. I stumbled a bit on that last one, that the beers are catching up. The question is, you know, we've talked about your upbringing, and if you hadn't found rowing, you would have perhaps gone in a different direction. When you look back on that, is that fulfilling your potential as an athlete? Did you exceed your potential?
I don't think it's an interesting question, because as an athlete you've just got an aspiration and a goal, and you could ask any athlete, what do you want to do? And they'll go, I want to win Olympic gold. Yep, cool. I want to win a world championships on the way. Like, people do, so, you know, and first and foremost, you do go, I want to win an Olympic medal. Because as you get more realistic about how good you are, you'll be like, I'd love to win a medal. So, yes, you do want to win those things, but when you look at how much you want to win, you don't sit there and go, I want to win the next 10 world championships, or I want to win the next 3 World Cups and bits and pieces. You literally just go, this race, I want to do the best I can, you know, or try and win this next race, and then I want to win the next one, and I want to win the next one, and get into a position where you can win ultimately your big goal. So, of course, that was basically where it starts, as you go, like, I want to go to the Olympics. So I ticked that box pretty quickly, which was awesome. And then the next one, you've already won a world champ, so you go, shit, I've won a world champs. Wow. Okay, now I want to win the Olympics or win an Olympic medal. So then that's your goal driven from there. So everything working up to it is about that goal. And, I've said it many, many times before that, we won, and we kept winning, working up to London. If we'd lost London, you would trade everything you've ever done before that to win. And that's what it does. So it doesn't matter what you've won before it, whether you break records, whether you do whatever. If you don't win that Olympic gold, it means absolutely nothing. Because people remember the golds, they remember the Olympics. I could tell you who won the Olympics in like different boat classes, but I couldn't tell you who won it like the year before, or the year before that, or the year before that. But I could tell you who won the previous Olympics. Like that, and that's really, I'm pretty sure you could. A lot of sports are a little bit different because athletics they have a 4-year cycle with the worlds as well, so they go every second year. So a lot of people sort of remember who wins that type of thing as well. Whereas with like swimmings or the like the rowings or the cyclings or whatever, there's always a world champs every year. So people will sort of remember it if you're in that sport, but of course unless you're in it, you don't remember a lot of it. So it is sort of surreal when you look back on it and you think, well, my goal was to do X, but actually in the end of it we achieved Y, but it was just a product of what you were doing every single day that managed to get to that point.
And what's the breakdown of physical to mental? Because I've been watching a lot of your videos and reading a bit of stuff over the last week. One of the ones that stood out to me was late December 2011 when you set the world record on the Concept 2 dynamic rowing machine, 18,728 meters in 1 hour.
That's a long way.
Smashed the world record, which is just a huge testament to your character, because that's just incredible willpower and determination to keep going and keep going.
Oh yeah, you've got to. So a lot of like when I talk to corporate stuff and bits and pieces, the one thing, and same with you guys, like the one thing, you saw all our victories, right? You never saw the number of times we failed in training. Fuck, we'd fail all the time. We'd do like every week, twice a week. So picture of training, you train 6 days a week, and you've got your program, you've got your people you train against, and we had pace boats every day, faster than us, and you try and keep up with them, bang, fail, shit, okay. They went really quick, we didn't get our technique right, we couldn't stay with them. Then you do a race every Wednesday and Saturday, some varying distance, and the coach will go, okay, men's double, we're going to do 4K distance. So you've got to race 4K, open rate, go as fast as you can to the finish line. And instead of him giving them 20 seconds, which is the two differences between the world records, because it's normally 10-second world record, you go, I'm only giving you a 12-second head start. So you go, oh, fuck, okay. So now all of a sudden, you've got to go faster than what you thought to try and keep them at bay, because it becomes cat and mouse. So they come back on you really quickly, halfway mark, they're pretty much beside you. And you're like, am I going to let them pass, or am I going to go hard and try and blow them up? Or are we going to blow up? And 50% of the time we'd stay in front or we'd blow up. And then if you beat them, then the next week, now your time difference is shorter. So if you beat them, and you beat them, like a couple of times we beat the double on time, so then the next week they go, oh, you guys are going off together, and you'd be like, oh, shit. And now they're in front of you, and you're like, man, we've got to catch them, and you can't. So of course you're just like, shit, what do we do? So this whole competition thing in training just pushed you to the absolute limit all the time. And that's what it comes down to, is just you've got to find ways to push your boundaries and to be vulnerable and to fail, because ultimately we wanted to know, and I tell athletes all the time, and it really sort of comes to like a little bit of life as well, but obviously with athletes it's really pivotal. You've got to know your capabilities. Whenever I hear anybody go into an event or whatever and they go, I hope we go well today. Yeah, I know we might need a little bit of luck. Bang. You have no idea where you're going to come. Whereas if you're a long jumper and you go, shit, I was jumping 4 meters 80 the other day in training, and the top guys are going to do 5 meters 10, you go, shit, I hope I make top 8. And that's what you need to go into it with. Because there's no way you're going to jump 5 metres if you haven't fucking done it before. What do you think you're going to automatically just, oh yeah, I'm on the day, I'm ready to go? Because your training should be as fast as you can go. So in 99% of our races, I knew we were probably going to win. There was a couple that were touch and go because we had been, like Hamish had been injured. There was one year we went overseas and we spent no time in the boat because he had a rib stress fracture. We turned up at the World Cup. We did 3 days of training and I'm like, okay. And we did one piece and it was pretty slow. And I went, man, this is going to be touch and go. And I watched it while in lockdown, this Munich World Cup that we went to in 2010. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why we only won by half a length. You know, because literally we weren't prepared. And so that was one of the only times I thought we were really vulnerable in a race. Whereas every other time, 3 days out from racing, you do 1,000 metres, full tit, like at race pace. So not sprinting, but you just come out of the blocks like you would normally and set into your rhythm. And the coach will go, yep, you did a 3-minute 10, and you'll go, okay, probably be able to do 6 minutes 20 because, you know, we can pretty much continue that speed, or 6:22. And you go, you know what, that's going to be good enough to win because I know that's good enough to win. And so that's really what you're trying to do. So when we do things like that rowing test, it's just literally trying to find a way to push yourself beyond the limit. And so like in that, I think there's a YouTube video of it as well. Like I set it out with the physiologist and he goes, right, you're going to sit on the rowing machine. It's 1 hour. Here's the plan. Get into your rhythm. I think you can hold this split. You know, and we were aiming for like a 1:36.5 or whatever it was. And so I started out and I was feeling good in the first 10 minutes. I was under 1:36. Bang, looked at my heart rate, 190, and I went, fuck, holy shit. Because I was thinking we needed to, he's like 180 for the first 10. It'll climb to about 185. You should hit about 190 with about 20 minutes to go.
Okay.
Here we are, 10 minutes into it, bang, I'm already at 190. And I'm like, oh, far out, here we go. Yeah. And I've gone to the point of no return. So what do? Stop? Or do you just keep going? Yeah. And I ain't a quitter, you know, like, so I was like, oh, well, here we go. So basically I just like zoned out, found the rhythm, breathed into it. Next minute I'm halfway through it. Heart rate's at like 193 and I'm like, oh, still feeling pretty good.
20 minutes is just gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Into the zone.
And so of course it wasn't until about 15 minutes to go that I was like at the wall and I was like, okay, now I've got nowhere to go and I'm going to slow down from here and I just got to limit the fade. But I didn't limit it too much. I sort of managed to hold it quite well, but it literally was like on the edge. And I met, you know, and I got to the line, absolutely fuck. It took me 3 days to recover from it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you burn at the end of that compared to like a...
It's not so much right at the... Oh, yeah, so... right at the end of it, you're just like off your feet, and then you just get up, legs are jelly, you're wandering around, but it just literally takes days and days to recover from. Because you're just literally exhausted everything. Now, I don't want to sound arrogant, and it's so bad when I say it. I wouldn't even put either of our Olympic finals in probably the top 20 races we ever raced.
Really?
No, because like the races we did here at Karapiro, like against Nathan and Joe, who won London, right? We'd get a 5-second head start against them. We'd be head to head with 500 meters to go, and we know how they sprint. You know, they won in a sprint, and here's Hamish and I trying to keep with their sprint. Did we have to do that in London? Nah, we're way in front. So we didn't have to sprint. You know, so we were doing that in our training all the time. And of course, there's some of those races we would be absolutely off our feet, just like, fuck, I'm spent, I'm done. You know, and we would be at that level. Whereas when we got into these races overseas, we'd move in front of everyone and we'd keep the foot on. But of course, you're relaxed. Because there's no stress, everyone's way the hell back there, you're going to win by a few seconds. And so you're like, sweet, yeah, we won. You know, and that was it. And, you know, in the Olympics, you got 5 seconds going through 500 metres to go. You're literally, the thing you're thinking is, do not screw this up. Like, that's what you're thinking. You're not thinking, I need to sprint to the line, or we got to do this to, like, we've got to pull a cat out of a really small hat. You're literally like, as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we are going to win. And so you just relax more than you actually stress and you win. Yeah. And so, of course, these Olympic races were nothing compared to what we did in training.
Right.
But I hate saying it because people are like, shouldn't the Olympic Games be the toughest and the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? And I went, No, actually.
Yeah.
We did a lot more in training. But of course, that's what put us in the position Hamish and I were in, where we could actually win. And everyone was like, holy shit, you guys smashed it.
That's a great seg into my next point about training. You wrote a great column for the Herald a few months ago about...
Oh, controversial.
There's a lot of discussion about where the line is between bullying and high performance training.
Yeah.
And you sort of said, well, look, there are times when I got pushed bloody hard. Was it bullying? I don't think so, And I've heard you say before that for the first 4 years, you didn't have the right to question things. You got told what to do and you did it, and then you developed enough experience to know what sort of worked and what didn't. How do you relate that to athletes these days? Oh,
it's still a really fine line, because I know some athletes have been treated bad, and I know that they've been treated bad, and it's a really shit position to be in, and a lot of it sometimes comes down to politics. Like I know a friend that's in the cycling team. She qualified for the Olympics, and they took her qualifying spot off her and gave it to the endurance team,
right?
Because they think the endurance team's going to go better. So is that bullying? So you got shit like that, and they're like, so this is really where it gets tough. And then you got people that are getting pushed, or they're like, if you're not here, we're not going to coach you. You can't train outside the squad. Is that bullying? Possibly. Should you try and help those people? But when you're high, and it's got to start at the top with a lot of it, where, yes, you've got to realise that this is a career, this is people's lives, they put everything on hold for it in bits and pieces. I still believe that people shouldn't look at it as a sacrifice, because shit, if I look at what I sacrificed, 9 to 5 job, fuck, that's a massive sacrifice. Like shit, I was never in New Zealand for like 15 years in winter. Is that a sacrifice? No way. I got paid by the taxpayer to sit on my ass and row, do something that I loved. That's not a sacrifice. Did I miss things? Absolutely. Opportunity cost. It's the same as everybody. If you're working full time or you're working weekends, you can't go and do shit, because that's what your job is. That's your opportunity cost. So yeah, it's really difficult, because yes, on one side, there is an element of really high pressure, and it's just where that line falls. And of course, like if I look back on Dick, did he bully us? It's really hard to say. Like, did he ever say, this and this, or I'm going to kick you out of the team? No. Did he lose his shit at us? Absolutely. Was he stressed? Probably. But it wasn't to that level. But I do know that when you're trying to push athletes, sometimes coaches probably have crossed the line where they've said, look, if you can't keep up in this run because you're a bit fat, and that's crossing the lines. So it is very hard. But of course, what I was trying to get across in that whole thing is that high performance is not actually that fun. Like it is when you get the rewards, but at the time, it is hard, man. And it comes down to numbers, statistics. Like all you've got to do is look at anybody that knows anything about sport, look at the NFL, right? You do the combine, and they go, if you want to be a running back or whatever it is, here's your time. If you're not under 4.5 seconds in that 40-yard dash, fuck, get out. You're not even going to be anywhere near the draft. You know what I mean? And so you're 4.6 seconds, and you go, oh, but he's really big and strong and he can catch the ball. It goes, who cares? He's not quick enough. And so you just basically say, mate, get out, piss off. And you're just like, that's tough. And that's what it comes down to in sport, is that you've only got X number of spaces, you've got Y number of people. Someone's going to miss the cut line, someone's going to get unhappy, someone's going to be super stoked because they just made it, and then all these other people are like, well, yeah, it's good enough. And yeah, it is really, and I just hope that there's some way we can find an element around it all, but I just don't know if we ever will. Like I do think, and the other problem is with it as well, is if we don't push people hard enough, because we don't know where the line is between thinking that it's bullying and just actually needing to get performance, we might lose performance altogether. Because I can sit here now and say, would I have ever trained as hard as I did under Dick Tonks? Fuck no. No way. Shit, that guy made us do shit that I had no idea I could ever do in my life. We did it and we won Olympic gold.
Yeah.
And so like full respect to him. Was he a nice guy? Not really. But I take my hat off him, full respect, because he won us that Olympic gold medal. And that's the crazy part you got to look at.
That's why he's such an interesting character, and we talked with Emma Twigg about him as well. It's, you know, when you look at his record, 25 world champs, 13 golds, 7 Olympic medals,
Unreal.
6 golds, 5 Holberg awards, the World Rowing Coach of the Year 3 times. And it's like, you look at that and you're like, well, shit, yeah, he's the best.
I think he, you know, if you look at those stats and you compared them to like Arthur Lydiard, I think he actually is better.
Yeah.
And so you look at it and go, he should be our most celebrated coach. But he's just different. He's just different guy that was...
But it's a generational thing.
Absolutely.
I think,
absolutely.
You can't, like, we come from a football background, and I said this on Twig's podcast as well, like, you just can't... I sound like an old man, but kids, you can't say anything to kids these days. Like, it's just impossible.
It is tough. And it is really tough. And I want the best for our athletes going forward. You know, and when I talk to athletes, the only thing I say to them is I say, look, here's some advice which I learned along my way. If this helps you get better quicker, great. Like, I can't give them a magic pill like and say, this is what you need to do and you're going to be better. I'm just like, look, this is what I thought about when I was doing it. This is what I looked at afterwards and went, oh man, if I'd only done that, I could have been here 6 months ago or a year ago, you know. And I said, so think about this, and if you think that could work for you, or if that's a great mentality to use going forward, use it. You know, and that's all you can do. And so any athletes trying to be, or myself trying to be mentors to different people, you just got to lay it out there and go, this is what needs to be done. Not telling you that it's going to be fun or enjoyable or whatever, but just use this in terms of what you're doing now and think about it. You know, think about it. And just have it in the back of your mind. Because even though you've been given this, you know, every day, you know, because people will be like, oh, it doesn't matter about, you know, I don't really need to worry about this regatta. And I'm like, you want to know what, mate? You need to know about every single one.
Well, that's why I'm fascinated with you talking about training and the mentality to go to every training session and want to win that training session despite whatever odds are against you. That's an incredible mentality.
But yeah, and so, you know, and that's what you need to do. And if you... Like, I've said it to a few people, and I've talked to like a few of the rugby teams, and I talked to the Crusaders a couple of years ago and stuff, and I stood up there and I said to, it was the development group and the young, and like the full team was there. This is when they won year before, which was pretty good. And I said, look, if you do the 3K run test, and I said, I don't know if you still do it, and they're like, oh, you still do it. And I said, look, Scott would rather see you come through that 2.5K mark literally on PB like nobody's ever done before, and watch you limp across the line at 15 minutes and watch everybody pass you, than he would see you get to the finish and go, oh, I could have gone a bit quicker. And I said, is that right, Scott? He goes, yeah, fuck yeah. You know, like literally, I was like, that's what you want to be doing. And I said, because then you learn and you go, okay, did that wrong this time, what am I going to do? So this is your failure, you know. And it's like in the thing, you go, oh, I think I can lift this, and no, I can't. You know, try it. Fail, do it again, you know, build up to it. And that's really what it's about. And that's what I try and tell people, is just, you got to do it, and it's the only way around it.
2 minutes on the erg, Steve, 1 minute off. Got to hit 500 metres. That was me on Tuesday night, times 10.
Oh, you could do that easy. I'll give you some tips.
I fucked out on number 8, did 499, and I lost my shit and did 408, and then bounced back with a 520.
Yeah, that's much much.
I just want to stay on Dick Tonks just for one last part, because it's one of the most explosive passages in your book, and I'd love to hear your version of it.
This is great. Yeah. So this is going to be me commentating the actual event.
Okay, so Hamish has requested the training session off. So
this is the thing. He never requested it off. This is what made it even worse, because I'm cutting that on you.
No, go ahead.
So here we go.
Yeah.
So basically, So we'd been training well, you know, it was going well. We must have been 2011. I'm sure we were 2011. Yeah, we were.
Yeah, 2011.
And so Hamish's partner, she was maybe finishing law school, or finishing part of her medical stuff in Wellington. And he said, look, or getting, wherever it was. And he said, I'm going to go away. I'm going to go and see Lizzie this weekend because she's getting a cap or whatever the fuck it was. What training do I need to do? That's what he said. What training do I need to do?
Yeah. Okay.
And so it wasn't like I'm taking a day off. Because what made it worse is I'd actually asked Dick a few times with like my partner, because I was married at the time. I was like, you know, can I, you know, just need to get away with, you know, because thing, you know, you know what I mean? It was, you know, like, you know, and he'd be like, oh, okay, you know, you go, you know, but just make sure you do a couple of things. And so I'd gone to him, and I thought he sort of knew, but of course, for some reason, and I think it was just subsequently looking afterwards, we sat down with the rowing logistics lady, and she said she knew Dick was about to blow because she's had it happen to her a couple of times before. So she knew something was up, just the way with his demeanour around the office and bits and pieces. She thought, shit, here's something. And she goes, you guys just got the brunt of it. Literally what it was. So just the guy, that was how he worked, and something was going wrong in his life. And this is what I look back on. It wasn't bullying, it was just something in his life, and he just snapped. So we get this phone call. He asked, and Dick was like, Murr. And so this is after training. And so nothing was said. And it was like a Wednesday. So, you know, given him plenty of time. Next minute, phone call, high performance manager, and he goes, oh, can you guys come back in? We need to have a meeting with Dick about the weekend. So I'm thinking, oh, yeah, sweet. He's going to tell Bondi what he's going to do. We sit down at the boardroom with Alan, and he goes, oh, Dick wants to come in and talk to you. Bang, walks in the door. Bang, slams the door behind him. And he goes, you blonde-haired, arrogant motherfucking cunts. Like, literally, word for word. And that's why it's in the book, because it was in. And he goes, you don't fucking tell me what to do. And he just went. And I was sort of like, whoa. And of course, I'd been in the workforce, so I'd seen bosses and shit lose their shit at you. And they go, you fucked us up. You cost me money, blah, blah, blah. And so you can sit there, look them in the eye and go, look. And even if it's not your fault, just let it fly over your head and go, he's angry because he's lost money, or he's lost whatever, lost hours, lost productivity. So I knew that, and I've been in that position where I fucked it up before, you know. So I'm like, that's fine. So of course, here's Dick just going full barrels at us, and his lips quivering. He's across the boardroom table like this. Hamish has got his head down, and I'm looking at him square in the eyes, just like, wow, this is crazy, you know, like this is interesting. And he just went off and off. You know, you haven't got anywhere because of me, blah, 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 mate, you guys can get back, you know. And it was just profanity. And I was like, holy shit. And so then he turns around to go out, and I went, wow, holy shit. Like, boom, reloads the barrels, walks back in, and he goes, what did you fucking say to me, you bastard, you know, you cheeky motherfucker, you know. And he just went to town. And I was like, settle down, Dick. I was like, whatever's going on, man, just settle down. He goes, bang, now up to 100 decibel, like going hard. And of course, high performance manager sitting there to our left said nothing, you know, and we were just like, holy heck. And so then he walks out the door, bang, slams the door, picture falls off the wall. And we were just like, holy shit. And so Bondi's sitting there like going, oh my God. And I looked at Alan and I said, are you going to do something about that? I literally said, are you going to do something about that? What are you going to go hit him up? And he just like looked at me and goes, oh, like, what did you do? And I went, what did we do? What did we do? And so then we had to tell him the story about this. So then we walk out into the office, and of course everyone's like under their desks, like literally peeking, going, because they heard everything. The whole building heard everything. Literally peeks up. And of course, a couple of the coaches we were really good with, like afterwards, like Mike rang me and he goes, man, that was entertaining. And I was like, and of course, CEO, nothing. No one did anything. And because it was, you know, but it was just sort of at the time, Dick was running the show. You know, he was head coach. He was the one producing the results, everything. So nobody wanted to rock the boat. So what happened in the end was like Bondi was fully adamant, nah, we're getting a new coach. Screw him, we're getting a new coach. I was like, let's just let him cool down. And so we went and spoke to a few people about it because it had happened to Rob in the past and Sonia. And so we sat with them and we talked to Lisa about it. And she said, look, something's gone on with his life because he's done this before. He lost his gears and bits and pieces. So I sort of let it fly, and I said to him, look, so we had a couple of days where we just like did our own thing. And then I said to him, look, Monday, turn up. We're going to go out when the quad goes out and we're just going to do whatever they do. We'll sit beside them. And he goes, nah, we're getting in. I said, look, just do it, just whatever. About a week later, he finally started coaching us again. Yeah. So we just went out and we did what was they were doing. Yeah. Didn't matter. Like a couple of days, he took them way up the river. So they were basically getting punished for us because he was like, I'm going to break these guys. And he'd be like, come on, go Pufar, you know, and he would just coach them, try and wash us out. And so it was just, you know, it was just this like, okay, you've had your spat, but it sort of carried on, blah, blah, blah. And so I look back on it, and it's bloody entertaining because it's great. You know, like you look back at stories in your life and you go, man, living through it was bloody funny. But at the time it was shit. But of course you look back on it now and you go, did it help or did it demean it? I don't think it demeaned it at all, because he was just like, well, if you're going to stick here, you're going to do it. And we did. We came back and we went as well as we'd ever gone. Bondi's relationship with him never really came right. I was fine. As I say, I've had bosses before that just lose their shit all the time, and you just got to deal with it. You know, and what we said about the younger generation, you can't talk to people like that these days. But I was fully aware of it, and I went, that's fine. You know, you're stressed. Shit's happening. So it was a really, really interesting journey on that part. But ultimately, yeah, like if we'd got another coach, would we have won a gold medal? Maybe, because we were still going pretty well. Would we have pushed ourselves as hard, or would there have been another coach that would have pushed us beyond our limits? I don't know. You know, and we had the training partner, because we had the women's quad that was training with us all the time and bits and pieces. So they were sort of our boat. You know, every day we trained with them, and they were faster than us in training, but not in racing. So of course, training every day with them was hard. Then racing with them, they'd always have a head start, so we were always playing catch up, which is what we talked about before. You know, this whole competitive element just really came to the fold.
The other interesting passage I'd love to get your your colour on is when you talked about the other perhaps notable meeting that you had.
Coming back.
You came back and they said that you that they had issue with you coming back for the birth of your son.
Yeah. In a way, I look back on that. You know, it's water under the bridge now. It's great for the book, you know, because at the time, you know, we'd won 2 world championships. We were unbeaten already, and I was like, look, Zach's getting born in August. I really want to come back. You know, first child and all. So I'm really keen to come back for a couple of weeks when he's due, and then I'll head back over. And they were like, no, because it's going to affect the like thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I see that, but I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, the problem was at the time we just had all these old boys that were just worried about, they were the selectors, they are the ones that wanted the fucking glory. You know, no different than the rugby selectors back in the days. You know, they go, we picked the All Black team for the Rugby World Cup, and I did it. I was the one that put that person in their position. I reckon did it. You know, it's all these guys from back in the 60s and 70s that did it back then, and and that was sort of their mentality. So of course, when I'm saying, look, I'm going to come back, I'm going to train. I'm going to train for 7 days, come back. What's the big deal on that? They were like, no, it's going to cost us a gold medal. And so, I don't know how much influence the high performance had on that, because if you don't get the medals, you don't get the funding. So of course, indirectly, maybe the high performance manager and the CEO were like, no, we need the medal. We need the medal. You know, so that's where I look back on it, and I don't know how deep that conversation went. Was it just 1 or 2 people that were saying that question, like, no, you're not coming back, or was it whatever? So, like, did it affect us? No. You know, and so that's what I look back on, is that when I came back, it was hard. It was some of the hardest shit I've done, because basically came back, Zach's born in the morning, stayed all day with Jackie in the hospital, come back at night, father-in-law took me back at night, she's at the birthing centre, and I'm like off my feet because I've just travelled like 30 hours around the world to get back. I'm like, shit. And then I've got to get up first thing in the morning, train, literally get on the rowing machine for an hour and a half, I think I did, and then bang, back to the birthing centre, and then back at night, off my feet, jet lagged, bang, I've got to do another erg. You know, and then the next morning I've got to go training on the water and then go back. You know, so it wasn't like, it was just like, oh, I'll come back, have a couple of days and do this. When I was travelling was my days off. So and of course heart rate monitors recording everything. So you're sending the data back to your physiologist who's going, yeah, good. It's like, so of course when I got off the plane, at like 4:30 in the morning in Belgium when I flew back, and 5 a.m. whatever it was, and I was like, man, we've got to do pieces this morning. And we hammered them. We literally hammered everybody in these 500 sprints we were doing. And of course, Bondi goes, oh shit, that was pretty good, you know. And I said, oh, and he goes, oh, you must have been training when you were away. So this whole conversation and this whole drama was pinned around me going back, coming back over, and performance being shit. First day, first session back, nailed it. And literally from that point in time, nothing was ever said again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just literally came down to the worry that the performance was going to lay. And like, was I suffering? 100%. And my mate that I was rooming with, because I wasn't rooming with Bondi at the time, because we used to like split up sometimes. When I got back, he goes, man, you must be bugging. And I'm like, can you see these? Like bags under my eyes. And he goes, bro, just go to sleep. I'll wake you for lunch. And I went, like, sleep.
There's the physical side, but the emotional turmoil. Your son's been born, and then you've got to leave that and come. Like,
it is. And like, you know, I look at it a little bit, and it's your choice. It's an opportunity cost, you know, and I see... You know, I see the All Blacks and they're like, oh, you know, but the All Blacks can't get back for Christmas. And I'm like, if you want to compete for your country and the opportunity cost is not having Christmas with your family, tough shit. That's the choice you're making. If you don't want that to happen, don't fucking compete.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it was like, I missed Zach's birthday every year after that because it was in July. You know, I missed Jackie's birthday every time because I was never home because it was like end of June. You know, that's the opportunity cost. And so you like nothing, you can't go, hey, can I come a week later because I've got to see my wife at the time's birthday? It's like, that's your opportunity cost. And of course, so if you want to compete, you want to go to the Olympics or you want to, you want to wear the black fern and the All Black jersey, that's your opportunity cost. So people that are complaining about it, you're like, well, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this to be at home for Christmas or are you doing this because you want to be an All Black and you want to be? That's your dream. Isn't that your dream? And so if you like, actually, no, I'd rather spend like Christmas with my family, say, look, I'm not available for this tour, I'll come to the next one.
Man, that's so powerful. Like, you can see why he's won 2 gold medals, right? Like, people don't understand that level of sacrifice. Yeah. Like you say, you see the highlights, you see
But I really try and get it away from the sacrifice because, like, you know, whatever your job is, if you're a lawyer or you're an accountant or you're working in factory, whatever the hell it is, you can't go play tennis or golf during the day. Because you've got to work. That's your job. So my job was doing that. It was just that it was 6 days a week. And so that was the opportunity cost was like, I couldn't go to parties. I couldn't go to weddings. I couldn't do this. That's your opportunity cost. Whereas if you look at it as a sacrifice, oh, should I sacrifice this and I sacrifice that? It's like, that's not a sacrifice. You know, when you look at it, there's not a huge amount of sacrifices you make in your life apart from what you like choose in big things. You know, you go, am I going to be a lawyer or am I going to be a doctor? You know, where's the sacrifice? You sacrifice being a doctor, be a lawyer. Or you sacrifice going to go and live in Australia or live in New Zealand. One is going to be a sacrifice. It's not like playing a bit of sport or work, like doing this and that and missing something on a weekend or missing a party or something like that. That's not a sacrifice. That's just like opportunity cost. That's the biggest part about it. It's what you got to look at. It's opportunity cost, not sacrifice. Sacrifice is big shit. You know, that's what I read. That's really what I try and get to like young athletes. I'm like, do not think about it as a sacrifice. You know, your life, you've got on a pathway. That's the pathway you're going. You've sacrificed going on that other pathway, which is going to work 9 to 5. You know, becoming general manager or something. You're like, no, I'm this way. I'm going to be a cyclist. I'm going to be in the kayaking. I'm going to be in the football team. That's the way I'm going. So everything that way is just opportunity. That's where you're going.
We've spoken about your son, Zach. He has autism. How has that challenged you, changed you, shaped the person you are now?
It's shaped me a lot, actually, because, like, ideally, you go, hey, I want a really healthy, you know, vibrant kid. And of course, Zach is healthy and vibrant. It's just that he's got a different wiring in his brain. And so, of course, when he was diagnosed with autism, you're like, man, shit, what does that mean? You know, and ultimately, you're upset a little bit because you go, okay, I wanted, in your head, you've got something. You know, it's no different than your hopes and dreams. You go, I hoped I'd had $1 million by the time I was 30 and a house and, you know, a pool, holiday home, all this sort of shit. But of course you go, okay, well, I wanted a child that I'd be going to rugby with and I'd be doing this and this. And you go, well, actually, no, that's not what's going to happen. It's just going to be a little bit different. So that's what I learned quite quickly, because ultimately you can sit there and, you know, no different with kids that like get cancer or something like that. You go, it's just a different pathway. They're just going to be different than other children, neurotypical or whatever it is. So when he was diagnosed, you go, well, what does that mean? And they go, well, we don't know. It's going to develop, you know. He, at the time, wasn't talking. So, of course, they go, well, communication could be different. Behaviour could be different, whatever it is. And so, ultimately, you go, well, he's my child. I'll do whatever I can. So, you just learn from the experts. You put them in the best education places that you need. And that's where Zach's gone, and subsequently trying to work in that area as well and learn more about it, why kids on the spectrum do this and why they do that and why some don't. And then learning about like all of us in some way are basically there, or where not everybody's the same, and they're just different. And some of them are really, really bloody special. So ultimately doing a bit of that, trying to work with the organisation, like I got asked to be patron last year with Autism New Zealand. So that was like, wow, okay, so how do I help? And just with profile and bits and pieces, it's about how do you get out there, how do you connect the dots that can help all these kids? And then sitting in on a board meeting going, yeah, we get X amount of funding a year, and you go, what? Fucking hell. Yeah. And then you go, whoa. And then, yeah, we're trying to find this. And there's a 2.5 year waiting list to get kids into, it's depressing, to see Child Development Centre in like South Auckland. And you just go, are you fucking kidding me? And you go, how do we make this change? And they're like, well, we don't have the resources, we don't have the people, and the people that are doing it, they've literally got waiting lists, and it's just like this. So we need more resource centres, and you're like, oh, can't you get the government? No, government's already given us our money to do this, and you're like going, wow. So then you're just trying to connect some dots, help some people, and you can't help everybody, and so going with everything that I've done and everything that I've learned, you can't help everybody in this world, and you've got to pick and choose, and it's really hard. But of course, same with, when I talk to athletes, I'm not going to help everybody. I might help one or two. Awesome. If that changes their life, that's awesome. Same with the autism thing. You can't help all of them, but if we can try and make it better for a whole lot of them, that's awesome. And you can't just throw all your resources at one or all your resources at 10. You got to, and it's really bloody difficult. So of course, that has been a challenge. And I've just taken it and said, well, if that's what Zach's going to be, that's Zach. And he is, not here today, he's with his mum, but he's normally hooning around here, or he'd be in the pool, or he'd be on the trampoline. Like, we wouldn't have been able to do this because he'd be asking me to be on the trampoline the whole time, and we would have had to take this outside and jump around. Or he would have literally come and asked one of you boys with his iPad, because he communicates on his iPad, to take you out there and like jump around. So,
yeah. As you went further down the journey of learning, did that put the rowing more and more in perspective?
Yeah, so it's a funny story, because Hamish and I called day on the pier, a little bit, but not fully. So a lot of people don't realise we didn't fully call the day on the pier. He was like, look, and I'm going to go even further back, I'll get back to this bit in a minute. 6 a.m, day after we won the Olympic final, I wake up and I'm like, what the hell's that fucking noise?
In Rio?
On our balcony. Bang, Hamish is on his bike with his bloody computer, laptop in front of it, grinding away, and I could hear the trainer going like this. And I'm like, I'd had a few beers at night, because we didn't have like a massive party, we just had a few beers with some supporters and stuff. And I'm like, what do you do? He goes, tour in Southlands like month after we get back. And I'm like, what? He goes, because I knew he was going to go cycling. He goes, I've got to get fit for cycling, so I'm going to start training. I'm like, dude, you just won the final yesterday, have a day off. And he's like, So he was like right into it, next challenge going. And so we knew that, like, we'd had a conversation, but even beforehand, we were like, what are you going to do? And I said, like, I'm going to probably take a year off. And I actually had a bung knee because I twisted it moving some furniture a couple of years before that. And I said, I'm going to get my knee fixed. Which it wasn't hurting when I was rowing, but I couldn't really run too much or bits and pieces. I said, I'll get that fixed, and then I'll probably just train the year out. I'll see what you're doing. I might go back in the 8. And he goes, yeah, well, he was keen to come back in the 8 after like the Com Games. He's like, well, I might take it World Champs, Com Games, and then I'll see where I'm going. And he goes, worst case, we could possibly maybe train in the pier and see if we can get it back going again. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got my knee done, and I saw some pictures. Like, I was training right into April 2017, which So trials had been, everyone was saying, and I was training with this young guy who was also, he missed the team because he had like wrist injuries, who's subsequently in the pier now, and I'm really good friends with. And so we were training along, and then of course, but I was going to school with Zach every day. I was taking him to school, so I was sort of only training once a day on the water, and I was either going to school or picking him up or whatever it was. And he was just like, the teachers were like, look, we just, can't really, he's a little bit uncontrollable in bits and pieces and just always wants to be outside, we can't get him to work. And so then I was going to school and sitting with him, trying to get him to do stuff and that, and literally just exactly put me in perspective. And I went, fuck, I should be like not worrying about sitting on my ass and actually doing stuff with my boy. And I just went, you know what? And the other part of the story is that we were rowing back on Karapiro, me and Mike in the pier. Beautiful row. Really, it was quite nice. I don't know how fast we were going, probably weren't going that quick. And it was beautiful and calm. The moon comes up as you come down Karapiro, so the moon was like rising in the thing. Beautiful. And I got back and I went, man, this is awesome. And then I was just like thinking about Zach, and I saw him there and I was playing with him and doing bits and pieces. I was like, I can't keep doing this. I literally can't keep doing this. So I basically said to Jackie at the time, I said, look, I want out. I need to be doing stuff with Zach, and I think this is it. And then I rang Noel and I said, mate, do you want to come around for a beer? And I said, look, mate, I think I'm done. I said, I just need to do more with Zach, and I'm not really feeling it. And I said, I'd like to keep going, but I don't think it's appropriate. And then, bang, that was it. Decision made. And so I sort of left on my terms. Do I look back and go, do I regret it? Not really. Sometimes you get the interest piqued, bits and pieces where you, where like Bondi's come back a couple of years and gone, oh man, we need you back in the 8. And I'm like, look, man, I've drank way too many beers. You've got no idea what my lifestyle's like at the moment. Like I'm either on the golf course and then I have a few beers after, and a few beers the night before. There's no way. I'm keeping fit, but I'm like not fit as in super, super, super fit. And and that was basically a decision made. And I've never, it did pique my interest a couple of years ago. It did pique my interest, and I thought about it, and I asked a few questions with my physiologist and bits and pieces, saying, do you think I could get back to the fitness? And he was like, probably not right back there, but we could get you pretty fit.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look, if I do that, I've got to get full-time carer for Zach when I'm not doing it, and because marriage broke up and bits and pieces, so you got custody issues and bits and pieces, and so I was just like, nah, look, honestly, too hard basket. And then now looking at it, wow, I dodged a bullet with the old COVID there. Because if I'd been going hammer and tongs, going, yeah, Tokyo, here we go, and actually if I'd got there, like I think I could have got there. I know I could have done it, because I would have just been like 100% focused, just going as hard as I possibly could to get back to that. But then of course for there to be an end date, a countdown, you're always counting down.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I say to people is the moment you've got a countdown, you've already got your foot half out the door. So it's really difficult, whereas if athletes are going, I'm going to quit. As soon as this Olympic final's over, I'm going to quit. Man, you're halfway out the door. You may as well fucking go now. Like, honestly, you haven't got the right play. It's really hard to be in that mindset. Sometimes you just got to be like, I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to reassess. Don't say you're finishing. Because the moment you say you're finishing in your head, you're literally on countdown. You're not focused on trying to improve. You're just focused on keeping what you got, and then possibly will lose.
That's a Stephen Holloway thing, is that you never lock anything in 100%. He always
give yourself some wiggle room.
Yeah, he always says give yourself. To me particularly, because
what does, for a guy who's spent so much of his life training to the absolute limit, when you decide that that's a day, do you just not do anything for a week, a couple of weeks, a month, and then slowly get back into it?
No, you get fat really quick.
Yeah.
You put on weight like basically overnight. You just look at food again and it goes, and you're like, oh shit. I sort of, you want to keep fit because it's good for your health. And like, there's a whole lot of things that people say you should detrain from what you've been doing. And maybe I should have, but I was still jumping on my bike every now and again, and I was keeping pretty, like when you got Zach around, shit, you're out biking after school and you're running around after him and doing bits and pieces, so you're quite active. It's not like you're just sitting down doing nothing. It's not like you walk into an office job and sit out, So there was a lot of stuff going on and still going bits and pieces. And I like now, with a lot of my business stuff that I do now, I'm on the rowing machine nearly every day. So I'm still doing a lot of stuff in there, just not to the level, it's at a fitness level.
Yeah.
And that fitness is really, really good for health and well-being. People expend some energy, they feel good about it, and it allows you to have a few beers and have something to eat, and and just also burn your frustrations away. You know, you talk to so many people that go, I just pound the pavement for my mental health. You know, I literally get out there, or they play football or they play rugby just so they can get away from it, you know, just do something, get on the bike or whatever it is. Everybody's got to have that escape, you know. And so now, like, on my escape's going playing golf. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I get out there and I do that, and then my fitness stuff is on the rowing machine, and so I am actually pretty bloody active when I look at what I do, and that's really good for your health. You know, mental health is what you need.
That was my other question. Is it the rowing machine, or are you thinking, oh, I'm going to start running, I'm going to start doing something a bit different because...
I'm too big for running, man.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I know how good the rowing machine is, and a lot of people that talk to me and you know, stuff that we do, I'm like, bigger people, you know, if you've got knee issues or you've got hip issues, even back issues to a degree, you can actually use the rowing machine quite well. You know, and yeah, we use, you know, with Concept 2, we use the bikes and the ski. The ski's a killer.
Yes,
you know?
it is. Yes, it is.
Oh, mate, that's amazing. I'll give you a technique tip after this, eh? It's like a medicine ball slam. Don't think of it as a ski, big medicine ball slam.
Yeah, don't put your hands behind
No,
yourself.
straight down,
Straight
down.
I watched the tutorial.
Oh, you did?
On YouTube, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so...
Assault bike too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Hamish does. Yeah,
Can you confirm something for me? Because my trainer said this, that he can sit on that for an hour.
Oh, longer than that.
But in an hour, like, push out 20 calories every minute.
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen his... Follow his Instagram. Hey, mate, I could show you some... If you look back on our Instagram and our bloody Facebook from, like, back probably 2014, 2015, and literally look at the sweat puddles we created under our rowing machines and stuff, it's off the charts. It's ridiculous. And that's what he does. But if you want to be the best, you know, like, when he's doing it, you got to remember that his heart rate's only in, like, an aerobic zone. Because we were, like, fine... And, like... If you think about high performance in terms of athletes, we are literally just a highly tuned engine, and we push ourselves to be a little bit better every time. So of course, when people watch us and they do our trainings and they're like, man, this is incredible, that's just day in, day out.
Yeah.
That's like someone going for a jog. But our rowing machine stuff is like off the chain, where people go, wow, I couldn't do that for 2 minutes, and they can't. But we've trained ourselves for years and years and years and years to be able to do that for an hour or hour and a half, because that's what we did every single day, weeks on it. You know, and that's it. That's just literally what you train yourself to do.
It's similar. At the start of this year, I did the Kipchoge challenge. So Kipchoge did the marathon in under 2 hours. So I tried to run it for 1 kilometre at that pace, right? 2 minutes 50. Which is insanely fast, right? Treadmill goes to 20 kilometers an hour. He was running at 20, like the max is out at 20 kilometers an hour. He was running like 21.3. So I went to the gym and we did this awesome video, and it's like, how long can you hang at the Kipchoge pace? And it was like 200 meters. You know, these YMCA gym goers were bailing off, and it just seems, well, it is insane. It's an insane pace. But for someone who's done that all their life and he's trained
20 years,
in the
30
world,
years, It literally is, and you just get to that point where you just push the limits and you push, you know, and there's a benchmark that's been set by somebody else, and you just getting as close to that, and if you can push that out, then all of a sudden people are chasing you. You know, when we go back to some of this conversation, what I say to young athletes, I'm like, there's a benchmark. You know, people go, if you're looking at being a number 7, you know, go look how fast Sam Cane runs. You know, it's like when Richie was in there, you go, look, how fast is he in the shuttle runs? What level does he get to? How quick does he do the 3K? What does he lift in the gym? How quick does he get to another ruck? How many tackles does he make? If you want to be in his position, you've got to do more than what he does. And they just be like, fuck, no way. And you go, but guess what? You've got to be as close to that as possible, and then you'll be looked at. And that's what it comes down to, because he's done it. He's only there because that's what it is. So you just got to strive to be as good as them, and just look at the numbers that they're doing, and then all of a sudden now you're the benchmark. You're the one that they're looking at. And that's all Hamish and I were. You know, and so, you know, we were a little bit extraordinary because we were so competitive. We pushed it so much. Like that hour record that we talked about at the start, it's actually been broken by a Canadian guy.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah, and I knew he's a monster. And so but guess who went and coached him? Dick. There you go. You know, so yes, you know, you go, what? When he went there, I went, man, Colin's going to get really close to my erg, because the hour test was always this historical 23rd of December, basically the day you break off, it's like hour test. And of course, there's some stories about Dick, like in those tests, not that so much, but story with Rob Waddell is that Rob went out like 2 days before the Olympic final, and Dick's like, right, I want you to do 1,000 metres, push over the course. And he couldn't see Dick, so he thought, oh yeah, and he said, oh, I wasn't really feeling it, I was saving a bit of energy, did it. It was pretty slow, and then he finished his training, went back in, and he said Dick was waiting from on the dock or when he got off, and he goes, get back on the fucking water. And he goes, go back and do it again. And he basically made him go back and do it again at full speed. So Rob was like, shit. And like he wasn't going to say, no, I'm not, because it's your coach. So basically, if he'd done it properly the first time, wouldn't be it. So Dick's done that with a few people before, whereas they like pull out on these ergs, just cut, like piss off. I'm not going to, you're not going to be in my squad anymore. And it's literally just the way it goes.
Yeah. An interesting thing I was thinking of is you kind of straddled like the pre-high performance sport days.
Yeah.
Like the transition between that.
I'm really lucky. When I look back on my career, I went through basically the very end of the amateur into the semi-professional and into the professional that it is today. So I went through the first few years being here in Cambridge, like moved up here into 2000. We were working and you were training morning, night, working during the day. Then we got to a point about 2004, 2005 when there was a little bit of funding involved, because before that it was like if you won the Sports Foundation, that's how long we're looking back, if you won you got like 20 grand. That was and it was enough to basically get you by, but not full-time training. And then we got to a point where, hey, we're getting like a $250 a week allowance, like through this like the PEG scheme, which was originally. Yeah. Then it became performance-based PEGs in 2007. Yeah. So of course 2007. So it was only just before Beijing, and then from there, now it's in the scheme that it's in now. So from there, we were in that scheme right through, which was 50k a year if you won. And if you won one year and you got third the next year, your next payment in the following like fortnight went from being 50 grand to like 37 and a half, or the fraction of that.
And was that a national government?
That's a national government. No, so that's every sports body.
Yeah.
And that's what's come through from high performance sport. So literally if you go from being, say, top 2 or 3 and then you don't make the final the next time, you literally, the next payment, you've got nothing. That's what makes it hard, and that's what makes it brutal. And like they go in and bat for you and say, hey, look, someone was sick, or shit, someone broke a rigger, and we had a really bad time, and they'll be like, okay, well but what they do is each sport gets discretionary amount to spend. So of course then the CEO and the high performance manager come and sit down with you and they go, I've got $150 for you every week, and you go, how am I going to do that? Yeah. And you've actually got to make the decision of, can I do this? Like literally, if you've got a part, like there's quite a few people now that have got kids in the program, but before me it was nobody, because you could not do it.
It's not conducive,
is it? And so even now, like people, if you get a kid and you lose your funding, you're like, I've got to go, or else your partner's got to go back to work, or whatever it is, or you've got to have a great support around you. And that's what high performance is about. It's not just rowing, it's every Olympic sport across the board. And that's brutal, but that's how it goes.
We'll tie up a few loose ends before we get started. Before we get finished. Well, what am I even saying?
No, Steve, where have you gone?
I don't know. Okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about is getting in trouble for tweeting on election day
that's
from the Kiwi Pair account.
Kiwi Pair.
Don't worry, John Key, you get my vote. #funding.
Yeah, I know, that's a funny one.
Was it you or was it Hamish?
No, that was me. See, I did all our social stuff, and I still do. We still sort of keep it going. Hamish does the Facebook stuff because we're both admin. But it was basically, I no idea about it. Like that's probably the only thing that's been really controversial. But of course, it wasn't until afterwards that I literally about 20 minutes after I'd done it. It was on Twitter. And I got this phone call from a reporter, and they go, do you know you're not allowed to say anything election day? I said, well, I haven't. Like, you endorsed John Key. And I said, yeah, but I didn't say I vote for National or Labour. Like, yeah, but you can't use people's names. I was like, who cares? And so I was like, fuck. So I took it down. Next minute, bang, in the paper, fucking me, Israel Dag, Jonah. But see, of course, Jonah was going, like, John, you're amazing. Go vote for National, everyone, blah, blah, blah. And so I freaked out for about a day until I went online and searched the number of people that were like going, fuck Labour, back National, you know, like what I mean, you know, and they were like fully vocal about it. And so we were really the first year. What year was that? Was it 2011?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, whatever. So it was like the very first
it was 2014 election.
No, it was earlier than that.
Really?
Yeah, it was earlier than that. So that was like the very first time that social media had played like this huge influence in like communication around the election. Because of course election day, signs go down, no one's allowed to wear anything. It was like bang, you know, like it was literally like walk up to the polling booth. You're not allowed to have people like going, here, vote for this, vote for that. It was all illegal. And of course, here's social media, and everyone's got their opinion on Facebook. And so I'm pretty sure it was 2011. It must have been 2011. And of course, everyone's just like doing all this stuff. And here's us, you know, like 20 bits and pieces. So I'm like freaking out, going, shit. Because they made like examples of us.
What was the worst penalty you thought that could?
Well, no, but it's like 30 grand or 5 years in prison or something.
Jesus.
On 150 a week too, you're fucked.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, oh shit, here we go. And so I rang a couple of people and they go, well, yeah, it's bad, but it's not that bad because, you know, it's you removed it and it was only up for like 20 minutes and only had I remember taking a screenshot of it or whatever it was and there was only like 5 likes. So if I ever had to go, but if I ever had to go back and go there's only like probably 20 people that saw it. So, but of course on the day, because we had no idea that basically because it was the first time that I realised that all of these people, and there is people in media still, and all they do, their job, is literally to scroll through accounts and find shit to make stories. And that's what we got caught with, was just that. So, and I was just like, oh, bang, wow, okay. And so it was stressful for a day or two, and because it got made a story, then it was a bit more stressful. But then nothing ever came of it. And it was basically because hey, you got these people that are saying it. And it wasn't just us, because then there was another one that came out and there was 20 or 30 people that they put in a list that had broken the electoral laws. So it basically got to a point where actually if you had gone and made an example of me, I would have said, hang on, what about all these other people on thing? You're making an example of me over 4 people. How many people have they got friends with? How many people? So I wasn't ready to get on the phone to a lawyer, but I was okay, that was a bit stupid. And of course, but in the end it was nothing came of it, but it was a bit of a lesson at the same time. And then ever since then, social media, man, the number of times I have wanted to comment on things, you know, and
need a burner account. You set up a little.
I know, and you just, but then you just go, no, shut up, don't say it. And that's literally how you got to be. You know, you just got to be do not say anything because it will just be used against you
until you come on the podcast and then you can say
that's it, between 2 beers, bang.
Shay, did you want to ask your reality TV question?
Yeah, I was really you kind of delved into it with your comments earlier, but I'm really interested in the celebrity treasure hunt. I'm a real reality TV. I consume a lot of that.
It was such a good time.
How much of it is artificially scripted?
Everything. Everything's real.
Oh, you have to say that though.
You
signed an NDA. Of course you have to say it.
No, everything is. So you get you would have watched it back in the day.
Fuck yeah.
Loved it. When they asked me to do it, I said, sign me up. I want to do it. So you get taken there, and it took about 2 hours. We all sit in a room, big boardroom. They basically lay the rules out, and they go, "This is the rules of the game," and they go, "It's a game." And at the end of it, someone digs up the treasure for 100 grand for your charity. That's a little bit of a cash bonus at the end of it, but because we're getting paid to be on the show, and of course they go. So because what used to happen is that they'd pay people 10 grand to go on the show. And they'd be there 2 days and go, I'm out. So of course you were getting recuperated for the certain amount of days you're on the show. The longer you're on the show,
it was fucked in.
Oh yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah, so a couple of grand, bang, you're gone. Sorry, bro. Yeah. And of course, so that was the idea. And then of course, if you dug the treasure up, it was well worth its while. So they lay it out and they go, this is the game, this is how it works, this is what happens every day, this is how it's going to play out, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, there's going to be 3 people going for the treasure. there might be things that happen through it, there might be, and she's like, okay, I'm going to come together, because we all know how it works. And so they go, but there'll be this every day. But of course, if you win, it's not like you get to choose 2 from the other team, you're going to choose, right? So we all knew how it was going to happen. And so it was just like, you have to play the game if I wanted to win the money. So it becomes tactical a little bit, but at the same time, you need more of your team than their team. Because if you get down to a point where you've got to be alliances, you're living, eating, shitting with these other people, trying to make friends, and it does. So they really do separate team from another, and that's what you saw on TV. We were really tight, and then they were tight. Then of course you get an invader, and then it's like boom, and then fuck this and that.
I love this stuff.
I know, but it was so fun at the time, because I just got to a point. You're like, oh well, you just got to play your hand, And because when they said it's so important, and like hindsight, they were like they kept telling us all the time, every day, you need the pieces of the puzzle. If you do not have that, there's no way you can win. No way you can win. And so they just honed that into us every single day. So the scripted side of it was where you come back in and you're sitting around the campfire, and they go, look, we just need to do that from another angle. Can you guys just start calling a conversation again? But in terms of the game, and when you're standing there like talking smack talk to the other team, like, pussies, or like, they're just like dark that they didn't win, and you're seeing this like holy heated shit. That is 100% real. There's nothing, basically as soon as you finish, they go, see you back at your camp, and you go, and then you fend for yourself.
Yeah, you shit in the bush, everything.
No, yeah. So if you don't win any food, you go hungry. You're like basically trying to find coconuts to eat. You get a little bit of rice and dal every day, but it was like 2 cups between your whole thing. Oh, wow. So you cook it in the morning, and then you go back at lunchtime. And because you're like doing a challenge in the morning, one at lunchtime, and then going back at night, you're literally just sitting there eating cold rice going, man, like, and so there's a couple of times you've got to push through, like going, oh, get me out of here, because this sucks. Like, and it did. And like, in the filming, I was there for like 10 days, 10 out of the 13 days or whatever it was. And I lost like 6 kgs.
Yeah, really.
Because you just, like, you're not eating, like, we were winning rewards, and we were like losing weight like no one's business. But it was so much fun. Like, I loved it. I fucking loved it. I'd be back there because I was so competitive. I'd turn up to the games. I'd be like, look what they're going to do. And then we'd be like there, and I'd be like, and that's why we won heaps of those first ones. Because I was like, do this, and we're going to win. What do you reckon? And everyone's like, I didn't see that. I'm like, do you see anything else? Because everyone's just like, oh yeah, we'll see how it goes, And I'm like, no way, we're going to win. We're going to win. Yeah. And then I won a couple of them for us, because they were like, oh, you got to throw the thing. And I went, I'll do it. So I'm good. Put your hand up, and that if you lose, they're gonna put you up to get you out, because they're like, this dick, get them out of our team. But I know they were looking at doing a second season, and of course COVID hit. So I'm really hoping. I think they might still be going back to do another one. And if they were like, oh, we're going to do like another one in a few years, I'd be like, me, oh, I go, I love it.
Nice. Any producers listening?
Here we go.
There you go. He's
Clash of the Codes and Celebrity Treasure Island Season 2.
And Toughest Man. Or Toughest Nails, we'll bring it back. All of them.
Do it all out. That's my list, Shay. Anything left for you wanted to talk about?
2005, were you genuinely sitting on an exercycle eating a banana looking at another crew saying that's going to be me in a few years?
Oh, mate, I've done that many times. Yeah, it's cool looking back at where you were. And it goes back into my book, The Kiwi Pear. It's in the bookstores. It creeps up on you, and that's what I say to young athletes. We've got a big bit of a thing going there. Shit creeps up on you. You've got ambitions, and you've got goals, and you go, I want to be at the Olympics. I knew I wanted to go to the Olympics. Athens was not on my radar. It was sort of there because I hadn't even made the elite team. I was in like a development team. Next minute you're in the squad. Next minute you're doing testing, and you're like, man, I'm the 4th fastest on the row machine. And you're like, shit, okay, that's good. Then you do some pairs racing, and they're like, oh, you're 2nd fastest on our side. And you go, fuck, I need to be top 3 to be either in the 4 or the pair. And so you go, wow, I'm right there. You know what I mean? So you see it happening in front of your eyes, and you go, wow, okay. And it keeps happening, and you keep testing well, and you keep racing well, and then you win a couple of races, and you're like, shit, I'm right there. I'm just about to be like selected into the team. So of course you're sitting watching people all the time going, oh, I'd love to be in that boat, I'd love to be doing this. And like even when you're overseas, like because you go overseas and race and you get a hiding, so you sit there like warming down and you're like, man, I want to be like those guys one day, you know. And so you have the people you look up to, you know, no matter what sport. You know, you could be a cyclist and you're like looking up going, oh, I wish I was Lance Armstrong. but okay, obviously not now, but like no matter what sport you are, you know, whether you're an Eliza McCartney going, man, I wish I was Essen-Baeva. Because like, you know, or whoever her star was, or, you know, Valerie looking up at somebody, or, you know, a young sprinter going, man, I'd love to be Usain Bolt. You know, you look at those people that are in front of you and just go, man, how cool would it be to get to that point? And so it's not impossible to get to that, and you've got to dream about it, but then you just got to pull back reality and go, well, one day I might be at that position, you know, and then you just got to click out of it, go back to where you are now, and then just keep moving forward. And the moment you stop moving forward and you start going backwards is where you've either got to make some really hard questions or you've got to quit. Like it literally is. You know, if you keep going backwards and backwards and backwards, it's a long way to climb to where you already were. If you've already gone back down, now you've got a double climb to get up even further. And, you know, and you're just like, can I do it? And a lot of people will say, you know, they'll be like, I'm having a bit of a hard patch. And I'll go, look, I have hard patches too, you know. But you've just got to either commit and do it properly. And then one day, like nobody will tell you when you're going to finish. You know, you've got to make that mind up for yourself. And nobody's going to look at you and go, oh, you know, you're a failure and you just quit because you couldn't handle it. You go, you know, I just quit because I didn't enjoy it anymore. You know, and that was the reason that I finished.
Man, such epic storytelling. Just thinking about what we've covered, you know, it's nearly been 2 hours, but some of the themes we've talked about, like I'm sure it will resonate with people listening. You know, like it's so powerful. Shay?
Yeah, I am genuinely kind of like sitting here like Steve, just listening, going, "Fuck, this is pretty awesome." But I asked Twig this as well. Have you, when you're in the village, did you have your own kind of starstruck moment where you saw an athlete and you went, "Fuck me!" Like there goes.
Oh, you do.
Insert.
Yeah. I had that when you're younger, you have a lot of them. You know, and then when you get to race your heroes and bits and pieces, and I saw it with a lot of people that Hamish and I raced against. You know, you get people that would make a final at a World Cup, and then the next minute we're in Lucerne, you know, and it's, you know, these Spanish guys that weren't even meant to make the final, you know, and they're in the final, bang, we're warming down, come up and get a picture, you know, and they're just like, it's so good to race, you know, and they loved it. And like, I was in that position where, like, I remember getting a photo with some of the British guys that ended up winning, you know, like Sir Matthew Pinson and shit. I remember getting a photo of him and signing his book when I was in London with him, you know, because I was like, you know, like, wow, he's you know, and of course, so that's really how it goes, you know. And when you're in the Olympic Village, there's no different, you know. You see, poor old Federer came in Beijing to the food hall, and the poor bastard got mobbed by about 50 people, you know. And of course, you want to go and speak to them, you know, and you want to go speak to these athletes, and you see them going, oh wow, there's that fucking sprinter, you know, like. Holy shit, you know. And of course, that's why Usain Bolt or the LeBron Jameses or anyone, they ain't going to go there. Because, like, as much as they want to be part of it, they know that it's like, man, everyone's going to want to come and talk to me.
Ball ache.
And you know, we get that a little bit in terms of, like, in the rowing community, not probably in the global community at all. But, of course, they are global superstars. You know, and when they go, you know, Nadal was in London and stuff, and he went through the thing and just had to have people around him just, like, pushing it away. And you're like, well, what's the point? You know, you may as well go stay in your hotel. And of course, they come in and sometimes some athletes will give them the clearance, but then others are like, fuck it, I want a picture, you know, and they'll do it to a degree. But then, of course, obviously you can't go too far, otherwise, yeah. So,
and to bring it full circle, my last question is: you fought Manu Vatuvei in a fight for life. Would you ever consider going up against them in a dance-off, considering you did so well?
I've got 2 left feet. So I got asked to do dancing for the start.
Did you?
Yeah.
And you turned it down?
I was like, I can't dance. I know my limits, and I like pushing the boundaries. And at the time as well, you had to basically, you know, you've got to be in Auckland, you know, because you're training 4 hours a day. Like, if you want to be a good dancer and you don't know how to do it, you've got to train hard. And then, of course, you know, you've got to be up there for a couple of nights a weekend, and of course, I had Zach, and down here, it just wasn't feasible. You know, so no, Dancing with the Stars is definitely not one of me. I can't dance anyway. I should have learned. I can bop when you had a few beers. So no. And I've been really lucky, you know, and I look back on everything, you know, all the victories we've done and all the bits and the joy we brought to people while they were watching us on TV and see us, you know, around town and stop and talk, and you give time to people because you become public property. You know, you get asked to do a whole lot of different shit, and you know, some of it's really awesome, and bits and pieces you're like, wow, this is amazing. You know, and you know, you're really grateful for the sponsorships and bits and pieces that you get. Go to different sporting things, and people are always like chatting, blah blah blah. But ultimately, you just go, you know, you've got to give back, and you've got to do as much as you can. So you are in a really privileged position to be able to do it. And so, you know, would I have ever thought I was in this position? Hell no. You know, look, you guys come have a yarn. You know, like, you just get to that position where, you know, people want to hear you. And so you can either sit back and go, I just want to sit at home and forget about what I've done before, or you can be out there sharing your experience and sharing the story so that people can listen to it.
Well, thank you so much for opening the door and sharing your story. I'm sure our listeners are going to absolutely love that one.
Hopefully. There we go.
Yeah. It's been great. Thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate your time. And Jay?
No, awesome. Thank you very, very much.
All right, thanks, boys.